yes, we want to save and we want to strategically cut back when we can, and we want to invest and we don't want to spend more than we make. But at the same time, you want to run a system and have a mindset that allows you to live your life a little bit in the process.
When I came into the program, the first big area where we saw immediate change from our financial stress into financial peace was with respect to our shared finances as a married couple. I was still pretty new. We were pretty newly married at that point. I noticed that our net worth actually increased 60% year over year.
Whoa.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Hi, I'm Justin Buonamo, and this is Wisdom is Wealth. Wisdom is Wealth is designed to give you guys practical insights, modern strategies, and even timeless philosophies around gaining wisdom in your life. The wiser we get, the wealthier we will become. This podcast really is inspired by the book of Proverbs in the Bible, which was written by King Solomon, who prayed to God for wisdom, and as a byproduct became the wealthiest person to ever live. If he was still alive today in present day, he'd be worth $1.3 trillion with a T. Not because he prayed for wealth, but he prayed to God to give him wisdom. And as he grew wiser, as a byproduct, he grew wealthier, particularly financially, but not just stopping there, in every facet of his life. And in my own life, I have realized that the wealthier I become, it's truthfully just because I have become wiser in life. I'm gonna bring on guests that are incredibly successful, incredibly amazing human beings, and have an amazing financial wealth that they've grown for themselves. And they're gonna share wisdom on their life experience in totality in hopes that something becomes valuable for you to implement in your process, in your life, and in your journey, and see how wisdom truthfully is wealth.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to dive into this interview today. I've got one of my amazing clients and honestly, one of my best friends here, Andrew Fisk. As a lot of you guys know, I own a company called Journey to Financial Freedom, and we do financial coaching for the faith-based and ambitious. And we have a financial coaching program called the Good Steward Program, because a lot of us, we want to be a good steward of our money. And so I thought, what better option than to bring on one of the best stewards I know, and one of the good stewards himself, who went through our program and absolutely crushed it, and also just happens to be an incredible human being. And so, Andrew, for one, thank you for being here today, dude. And can you tell the audience a little bit about you and what you do before we get started?
Sure. And thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. So my name is Andrew Fisk, and I too am a coach, but I'm a coach for musicians, specifically with a full-time job or with a day job of some kind, and people who want to reconnect with their music and then take it to the next level. So I help them get clear on their vision for their music and their goals, identify roadblocks, help them build their skills and structure for their plan for what they need to make real progress, both in music and in business. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
And he's being humble because he's great at that, and he's an awesome musician himself. And so he has got a business that's a couple of years old now, and it's in its very early stages. But the accomplishments and the potency that are already being shown are just absolutely incredible. And I know a lot goes into that, but you have grown a ton since we first met you. And so can you share a little bit about how your financial stress has turned into financial peace as a result of going through the Good Steward Program?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for that. So really, when I came into the program, the first big area where we saw immediate change from our financial stress into financial peace was with respect to our shared finances as a married couple. I was still pretty new. We were pretty newly married at that point. So before I met Justin, I was actually a financial advisor at a Fortune 500 financial services firm. Like literally, I was doing this stuff day in and day out. I was coaching people in a different way, helping them with insurance and investments and saving and all kinds of stuff. So I had a really solid foundation of both personal and business finances in many ways. But so like we naturally had systems in place, but I realized in hindsight that they were outdated because they were meant for a single young professional who just kind of got to do whatever he wanted. But they had never been created for a young married man, newly married man with kids. So, and our system was like 99% me using an automated system like Mint. I used Mint for a while. And I kind of reported into Courtney, and I was like her advisor every month. So I'd be like, here's where we spent, here's where we say. It was crazy. It was like a 60 to 90 minute financial services meeting. She got it for free. And I was sort of just making unilateral decisions. I'm like, this is what I recommend. This is what we're going to do. Any questions? And she's like, and you could see her kind of white knuckling, like, okay, whatever you say it. But she was not comfortable with it at all. And it's very corporate, very divided.
Sure.
And she really felt uneasy talking about finances with me. And so not to put her put our stuff out there, whatever, but she tended to avoid finances. And I tried to control her. So after we met Justin and Brittany and the JFF team, one of the biggest things they helped us with was to join our finances. They were already joined bank accounts, but we didn't join our finances. We weren't a team. So that was it wasn't a client advisor relationship anymore. We were a partnership, and that was huge. So now we track our budget in the morning, 1 to 3 minutes a day. We feel really good doing it. There's no more avoidance, very few, if any, fights, and just a lot of clarity and communication. So that was huge. One other area, ironically, was safety with spending money, particularly on vacations. So I kind of came out of that system of like Dave Ramsey plus like financial advisor, like don't spend more money than you have to. So I was like, I didn't care about going on vacations, even though I kind of wanted to. But Justin taught us it was safe to spend money, take vacations and enjoy life. But in the context of good stewardship, it wasn't black or white. It wasn't mutually exclusive. It was both and. So that was really powerful. Those are kind of two main areas where stress turned into peace.
So good. With your partner for life, right? So you guys created a better partnership, and honestly, just the energy around money got a little bit happier, easier, and welcoming, right? And then, I think that, yes, we want to save and we want to strategically cut back when we can, and we want to invest, and we don't want to spend more than we make. But at the same time, you want to run a system and have a mindset that allows you to live your life a little bit in the process, right? So I appreciate those so much. It's a lot of big mindset shifts there. And so another one I want to talk about though is like, can you describe how your mindset around debt has changed since working with us?
Yeah, for sure. And I laugh because, coming out of that kind of Dave Ramsey school of thought, which no disrespect to him, it's good advice for most people in a lot of cases. But for me, it was kind of I viewed debt before I met Justin as sort of like almost like a negative trophy, like the result of failure, like bad decisions. And in some ways that was true, but mostly I just considered and basically whitewashed all debt as bad, just the whole thing, no good. But as a result of the program, I actually got a better understanding of how debt can be leveraged for better opportunities, both personally and in business. And so we learned to be strategic with debt. And we learned to use other people's money, OPM, baby, let's go. 0% APR credit cards and things to pay off the higher interest debts, the more bad debt, but also to manage your cash flow if you want to take a vacation or pay for something over time. That's all well and good. If you can manage it and steward it well, and it doesn't negatively impact your life, it's actually a good thing in many ways.
Absolutely.
So, and we made sure that we stewarded our money well and made progress towards our goals while we were managing the debt. So it's pretty different now.
I love that because, like I always say, when I talk about debt, I say manage debt. And what I mean by that is pay off bad debt and leverage good debt responsibly, right? Bad debt is buying things you don't need with money that you don't have, with no plan on how to pay it off at a high interest rate, right? Good debt is leveraging other people's money at a low cost or no cost to increase your opportunities, your wealth, and the access that you have to things. And I think that you do a beautiful job of that, dude. So, again, don't get me wrong. We're not saying all debt is great or all debt is good. Right. There is a difference between good debt and bad debt. And it sounds like you really wrapped your head, around that concept and have leveraged it really well. And so I know that you were facing some challenges before you started working with us. Would you mind describing those? And did you feel like the only way to grow past your financial challenges was either to make more money or to cut out your lifestyle you enjoy to just eat rice and beans?
Yeah, it was actually a kind of an insidious combination of both. So the main challenge, like I was saying before, the main challenge that I faced was getting buy-in and participation from my wife with our financial plan, which was mostly a reflection of how I treated her, as you know. So once the mindset shifted, that took care of a lot of the problems. But before that, it was kind of this, in relationships, when you've got someone who's sort of anxiously attached, that's me, and someone who's more avoidantly attached, I wouldn't say that's her, but it's kind of this game of like cat and mouse or something. Like the anxious person goes to try to control the other person because they're like, are you okay? Do you love me still? And then the avoidance like, give me some space, leave me alone. It's kind of how it went in our finances. Is like, I tried to control Courtney because I felt like it was out of control. And she's like, leave me alone. I just want to be free to spend money. And, like, I don't want to worry about this too much. And you're super controlling. And it was this awful kind of vicious cycle. Again, mostly proliferated by me. She's an angel. And so her solution was to go and do her master's program, which led her to actually have a pretty significant jump in income, which was great. But I still felt like, that increased our debt posture, and we had more money to mess up with now. So I was like, I was making kind of the mid range between the two values. So suddenly she was the breadwinner. I'm like, oh no, she like everything's out of control, blah blah. So she was like, I'm gonna go make more money. I'm like, we have to get more rigid, and it was just this awful mess. So I think that was a really tough challenge to kind of manage that. Like, I felt like we had to be more stringent, and she's like, we've got more money, we can be more free. But so it was kind of this tug of war.
Yeah, that's so good, because it's just like you said in the beginning, it's kind of both. One, like, should we cut back or should we make more? It's like, where's the happy medium? And I think it comes down to just understanding what your goals are, right? And then how can you have systems that measure, budget, and manage your money in according to those goals, right? So if you are spending money, right, then you're not making yourself feel guilty, right? And then if there is an increased income, you do feel like you can manage it well. And so speaking of managing well, you guys have managed your situation extremely well, right? And you've done some amazing things. Yes, relationally, yes, mentally, yes, spiritually, emotionally, but you also got some pretty good tangible results. Would you mind sharing any of those, like debt paid off, money saved, investments made, growing, whatever you feel called to share?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, it definitely wasn't all spiritual, emotional, mental, although those things were there in spades. But even as I looked back kind of year over year before we, just in preparation for this call, I noticed that our net worth actually increased 60% year over year.
Whoa.
I know, isn't that crazy? Our assets grew by 50%. Our debts decreased by over 20%. We finished paying off 2 different cars. We had already started that process, but you helped us get to the finish line on 2 different cars, and a few other personal debts that were lingering. And then we saved 3 months of expenses into an emergency fund, which became, super important for some of the things that came later. Yeah. We invested over $15,000 into retirement assets while we were working. And we gave a full 10% of our gross income in tithes, which, I understand that there's sort of some, like, whether gross or net. I've always felt like if you're going to give it, give the whole tithe, like Malachi 3, like bring the whole tithe into the storehouse and watch me, like test me in this kind of thing. Yeah. So that's just a personal conviction. I don't think it's necessarily biblically mandated, but it's, anyway, it seems prudent to me. That's for another time. But all of that to say, we were taking family vacations that I had spending more on family vacations than I'd ever felt comfortable spending, and enjoying date nights 1 or 2 times a month, and family dinners and things like that. So it's pretty crazy to think about all the different things that we did, and you guys really helped us to do by managing and stewarding our money well. We were able to do a whole lot for our family, ourselves, other people, for the kingdom, for my business, just across the board. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, I could hug you right now. Me and Andrew only live about an hour and 15 minutes. I might just drive down there for a hug right now. But dude, so good. And so, one thing I tell people though, it's like, we could teach all day long, but you got to play your part, right? This is our program is a done with you service, right? And so can you describe the time commitment required from your end during our collaboration, and kind of like what responsibilities did you have and what did we take care of?
Yeah, it was a really good balance, actually. And Justin and his team always go above and beyond what they promise. But I was pretty used to the dynamic of like, okay, we need to analyze we need to have someone come in and analyze our situation. That's what I did for clients, and kind of like take data, look things over, come up with recommendations and a full plan, and then help people stay accountable. That's basically kind of from the start when we did our onboarding with Brittany. That was where kind of we started. I was like, okay, cool, this is normal. Right. And then there was, coursework and all kinds of resources provided. So that was sort of where we started. But over the course of time, you asked about the time commitment. So I was doing two programs simultaneously, so it was a little bit different. But for the Good Steward Program, we attended a 1-hour group call twice a week, which was amazing. And it was somewhat strategy and some of the, we call woo-woo, kind of that inner world stuff. So it was a really good balance of both. And I learned a ton. But it was really like 2 hours a week, along with the 1 to 3 minutes a day on budgeting. So what is that, like 15, 20? So, 20 some odd minutes a week on our finances. And then 1 hour one-on-one call every month. So I think the total maybe 10 10 or 11 hours a month.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To radically transform our finances. Like,
Dude, we spend that on TikTok or just scrolling,
Honestly, yeah.
And so that's, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but music to my ears, because it's like, we have that time. I don't care how busy you are, you have that time, and you make time for what's important for you, dude. And so I'm proud of you for that, because again, we always say our services are your mirror, right? We're not perfect, but you will get out of the services what you put into it, right? And you've played your part and done amazing things. And so really, honestly, the success that you have really never surprises me, because you do play your part. But I'd be curious, what surprised you about our services, or maybe JFF in totality?
Well, it's actually funny. I didn't like prepare this or write this down, but I didn't realize how close we were going to get with everybody on
Yeah.
With you being one of my best friends, and some of the people on your team specifically, they don't feel like coaches, they feel like friends. They feel like old friends we've known forever. All of them know really, really important parts of my story, actually, and have just become really great friends to both my wife and I, and our kids. So that was kind of an initial surprise, like not only the team and the coaches, but also the community too, like how close and tight knit we'd get, even from like, not just like when we met in person, it was, we're hugging like friends. We're not shaking hands like, oh, thanks for being a great, coach or whatever. Like, anyway. But the other thing that was really surprising, so I came from a financial services firm. So I expected initially for the program, and I was gearing up for like hyper strategy, super transactional, very little, if any, attention given to like the inner world of emotions and beliefs and programming. But the program actually, not without the strategy, but it was far more about the inner transformation and growth, and even like spiritually speaking, that leads to the external results rather than just like managing our behavior. That was really surprising to me in the best way possible.
Dude, it's so good. So the friend part, it reminded me of Susan Hughart when she joined a couple of years ago, and she hopped into the Inner Circle chat or Inner Circle Facebook group. Then she came to one of the group calls, and she messaged me afterwards, and she's like, your community, I kind of felt like I got to a party a little late and everybody already had a couple of drinks and they all just like loved and knew each other already, and I just love that, because I've worked very hard. I know the team has worked extremely hard to build that culture where like, you guys are super safe with us. We're all really, we're not perfect, but we're all very, very good people who love on our people a ton. And that's why we get such amazing clients like you. And so that, and then, I love to say we do work on finances in both buckets, right? Like we are the best strategists in the world, right? We have great strategy, but those behaviors that come through those strategies are just a byproduct of the beliefs behind them. And so if you want to get real long-term results, we have to address the beliefs that result in the behaviors, right? And so like I always say, your external wealth is a reflection of your internal wealth. And so being able to work on both the strategy and that internal world is so super key, and especially in a way that's biblically sound and honors God. And so I thank you for that, man. And I appreciate you sharing that. And so I'd be curious, because you were on the fence for a little bit, right? And now we're 2-something years into this, and maybe you were lying to me the other day, but you told me on one of our one-on-ones, this has been some of the best decisions you've ever made. And so if someone's out there on the fence about working with us and joining the Good Steward Program, what would you tell them?
So the first thing that came up, I was going to say like that one of the best decisions I've ever made, aside from following Jesus and marrying my wife and having a kid, just the kind of like, those are big things, but
I understand. I'm behind those.
Well, a little bit, but it's okay. Those are some pretty big things. Making the top 5 is pretty important. But I think the first thing that came up was just trust that God's led you to this program and has your best interest in mind. Truly, like, I think that was kind of the thing I felt on the fence, because I was just scared, to be honest. I just didn't know what to expect, especially after being in the financial world. I probably, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I probably have enough people on one hand with fingers left over that I trust in the financial world, and you are like by far and away the top. So I think being able to trust God and then trust Justin and his team. I've told you this before. I'm big on names and meanings and things like that. But in case you didn't know, and clients and people watching this later don't know, Justin's last name means Buonamo. It is Buonamo, and it means good man in Italian. And his first name, look this up, as you might expect, it means just, upright, or righteous. And so literally a righteous good man, that could not be more Justin. If I could not describe Justin in a better way, to be honest. And his entire team live up to that name. Isn't that crazy? Like, that's just the type of person he is. And that's how he treats all of his team and his clients and everyone, his family. He's a real deal. So, and like I said, I've been in the financial services world. They're good people, but I've never met someone quite as diligent, sincere, and kind as Justin, especially in this. Like, if you had to describe a financial coach, I doubt anyone would use diligent, sincere, and kind in those words, or in a row to describe a financial coach. So that's Justin. And he's trustworthy and genuinely desires to help you grow in a way that's pleasing to God, which is also super rare when it comes to money. So anyway, that's what I would say. If you're on the fence, it's probably a fear issue, and it's probably, can I trust Justin, and can I trust that God has provided? I would say, without a doubt, yes.
I received that. Thank you, man. That means the world to me, and I'm just really appreciative of that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And so I don't know how you would top that, but any final thoughts you'd like to tell the viewers before we wrap up here today, dude?
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
I think along with that theme of trust, so there's trust God, trust Justin and his team. Hopefully you can trust me. I mean, you can. I promise you, very, 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 very good human being that is speaking to you guys right now. Thanks. I really try to live that out. It's funny, I wasn't planning to say this either, but I have a family friend, one of my parents' best friends, a guy named Paul, and he used to be an executive at Ritz-Carlton. And he describes trust as, I mean you no harm, and I seek your greatest good. And I think, along with trusting God, trusting Justin, trusting me, like the overall essence of trust is that all this means you no harm, and it's for your greatest good. And I think trusting the process too. There's something that just, I don't want to take away all your thunder here, but there's a sort of a paradigm that Justin and his team really helped me to understand, and it's the hero's journey. It's not their brainchild. I think it's Joseph Campbell and maybe some archetype just from story, but they really helped us to understand that. And having been through that program, you sort of enter this other world, it feels like, and it's the coolest thing in the world. And there's tons of transformation and growth and excitement. And you meet new people. And then there's this innermost cave that you really have to face. There's something in this program for you that is going to feel super uncomfortable. And that's where the money is. That's where the magic is that tension and that cave. You have to face that thing. And this program is going to help you to do that in the best way, in the safest way, in the most godly way possible. And you're going to come out on the other side back into kind of this, ordinary world, whatever that you entered from. And you're going to be so much better off, and you're going to be able to help so many people. And it's this incredible transformational journey of the hero's journey that you may not even recognize it happening right away, but you're going to feel it, and it's going to change everything. So I think trusting the process, even when it gets difficult.
That's such a good way to describe trusting the process, because now, as you're saying that, I'm just having this epiphany that most people, they really don't ever get their finances in order or reach financial peace, let alone financial freedom, right? Because they're scared to face the tension that comes with the process. But it's kind of like the treasure that you desire is in the cave that you refuse to go into, right? There's some type of iteration of that quote. I might have just butchered it a little bit, but
I think you nailed it, actually.
I think I got the theme. And so, dude, I appreciate that, just example or explanation, of the process, and just so super valuable and helpful, just like this entire conversation here today, dude. So as we wrap up here, man, just thank you so much for your time. And honestly, aside from this interview, man, just thank you for being you. Thank you for being such an amazing client, such an amazing friend, and just such a incredible reflection of God here on earth, dude. I love you, brother, and thank you for your time today.
Love you too, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Of course. Everyone, I hope that you enjoyed, this interview here. If you want to see yourself in a place like Andrew, where he is after going to the Good Steward Program and growing deeper in your financial peace, especially in a way that glorifies God, but allows you to decrease your financial stress, increase your financial peace, progress, and opportunity, ultimately on your way to financial freedom, we're here for you. And we'd love to welcome you with arms wide open when you're ready. So anyways, Andrew, thanks again, brother. And we'll see everybody on the next whether it's lesson, interview, episode on my YouTube channel. We appreciate y'all. Talk soon.